Hello to all our lovely listeners and members. It's Laura. This spring, we have blossomed from the Laura Flanders Show into Laura Flanders and Friends, and we're celebrating as our community and crew grow. We'll be bringing you more journalists, reporters, and storytellers with the support of more listener donors like you. We kicked off this new season with a viewing party for our premiere episode featuring Angela Davis, who said, "When vast numbers of people come together, this is how change happens." We agree. Every week, many of you show up and contribute to make our programming possible, and it is only through the power of community that we can drive real and lasting change. Today, I am asking you to join us in this collective effort by donating to our May fund drive at lauraflanders.org/donate. We have a goal of $25,000, the cost to produce just one episode of our TV and radio show. Your contribution makes a difference, we promise. Please make a one-time donation, or better yet, make it monthly by going to lauraflanders.org/donate. Everyone who shows their support this May will get an early access to the podcast of the full uncut conversation with Angela Davis. Donate today to support independent journalism, keep us advertising free, and keep us doing this work. Together, we can create a more just, equitable, and informed world. Now on with this week's show.
We have to restart again with humanity, with very basic, essential questions. To ask questions is starting points to find out who we are. I'm not this kind of very activist. I'm just being forced to act. But I'm proud of doing that because that is the meaning of life, to give dignity to life itself.
How do we keep the doors of our minds open to possibility and to fresh questions in a time when so many avenues to peace, justice, health, and fresh thinking seem cut off or out of reach? In his recent graphic memoir titled ZODIAC, the world-renowned artist Ai Weiwei writes that artists have a special role. They should ignite stories, fight for freedom, and help us hope. Over his long, defiant career, Ai Weiwei has done just that, using his art in a wide variety of media. His works, such as Sunflower Seeds and Remembering, confront issues of censorship and human rights abuses in China. In a recent show, he asked questions of an AI chatbot, among which is there hope for peace? Ai Weiwei has faced censorship by the Chinese government and also in the West. He had a show cancelled not so long ago in London after he expressed support for Palestinian rights. In 2011, he was arrested at the Beijing airport and held for 81 days without charge. He's been living in exile since 2015. He's joining me today from where he stays now with his family in Portugal. And it is my great honor and privilege to welcome to our program Ai Weiwei. It is such a pleasure to have you here on the program with me. And I'm going to ask you the question that I begin all of our conversations with, simply to perhaps ground ourselves. Who or what is uppermost in your mind or on your heart as we start to speak today?
Well, at this moment, nothing more. We cannot really erase the images of the people in Palestine. This is nobody can really erase those images. And we never had time like this, not in my life, and not in anybody's life. The images has been so massively covered and brutally showing in front of the public.
You just wrapped up a project in London that beamed on the lights of Piccadilly Circus, in which you asked an artificial intelligence chatbot about the meaning of life, 81 questions. It was described, I saw, as an 81-day quest for enlightenment. Can you describe that project a little bit more and what you made of AI's answers, and were you enlightened by any of it?
First, I think in the very critical historical moment, the every answer need to be re-asked. And we have to restart again with humanity, with very basic, essential questions. To ask question is the starting point to seeking for the truth and to find out who we are. And very often we forget to about those answers. So I use the possibility to ask the questions to AI. Happen my name, a little bit familiar with AI. So yes, we both give answers. I would give answers before AI gave the answer to see how much it matches and how much difference we have. And I think that is the point everybody need to ask a question or ask dozens of questions about who we are and where we are going.
And did you get enlightened? How did you compare with AI?
I would say AI does 80 to 90% of the job. The answer could be matches in many ways, but there's one need the individual thinking or to make judgment. I think AI is not capable because AI is just collecting information.
Do you have hope or fear around technology, or both?
In speaking of technology, I think that technology liberates people, every case, every individual seems they are so much involved and so much drawn or by the technology. You cannot stop them. Everybody, it's impossible. It's almost become like air or water. So, but what will come out of it, nobody knows. And still, technology will not just develop as technology, but still need someone have a brain and have emotion, have a ability to make technology become humanized. But still, it need to be employed by the right people, not by the wrong people. Still can be very evil, but can be very dangerous to humanity.
The other thing, AI is not Israel in terms of living in a body with a human type physical experience. Your 81 questions, of course, based on your 81 days of imprisonment. How do you think those days changed you? And now, do you think of yourself as free? Do you feel free?
I never feel free, no matter what, in this kind of confinement or outside confinement. The inner struggle is not just with the existing condition, but also within ourselves. How do we make judgment? How do we make a move or not make a move? So those things are really we have to ask every second. So in that sense, freedom is only intention to get free, but rather you can never really achieve it.
You write a lot, though, about the function and the role of the artist. In ZODIAC and elsewhere, you've addressed this question. What do you think is your job?
I think that my job, there's a job, and even I've never been really hired, but still there's a duty. Duty means relate to if you think you have any rights, you would have a responsibility, and you have to pay for whatever you get. I'm a person. I eat well. I've been treated very well, and even with all those difficulties, still I consider we all lucky. We all get more than we deserved. So who is going to pay in that? I think all the thing I can do as an individual is defending humanity and defending basic human rights, freedom of speech. Those things are so crucial.
There's something about artists, though, that very much scares and concerns certain sorts of governments, particularly dictatorial ones or authoritarian ones deeply invested in control. What is it, do you think, about artists and what they do that so concerns those kinds of regimes?
I think we always think we were born free, but that is not true. Our education, our sense of safety, or we have to behave like the others. We have to, get by with this kind of mainstream ideologies or propagandas. So there's all different kind of censorship. Some are very obvious, like in the authoritarian states. They are clearly tell you certain topic you cannot talk about. If you talk about, you touch the red line, and you're dead. You're not going to survive. So it's very clear. But I gradually found out in the West, in the so-called democratic society or land for freedom, which we also have a lot of taboos you cannot talk about, people avoid talk about, not just in ordinary situation, but even in the bar or in the coffee shop, in university, in education, in mainstream media. That means we are not encourage people to have a free thinking and judgment. And that is the ground to produce Nazis or hypocrites, and that can come to political disaster. And of course, we see a lot of political disaster, one after another, in very different locations.
So I'm hearing then that the role of the artist is to shove us out of our complacency, nudge us out of our kind of go-along self-censorship?
Artists are privileged in the way because they have no job. Nobody hires them. They don't get paid anyhow, unless they are so crazy about their fame or to make some kind of strange amount of money. So basically, the role of artists is about free thinking, and it's about making mistakes. Because the mistakes, the consequence is only you will pay for the mistakes. It's not you let anybody else to pay. That's the privilege of artists. That means you're free. You have much more space. But in today's society, it's not true. And most artists, I would say, are so much worried about their reputation, about be accepted by large institutions or exhibitions or, and to be collected. So those issues would affect their, would guide them not to express their inner ideas.
We have some of the same problems with journalism, but we can get to that.
You're listening to Laura Flanders and Friends. On today's show, we're exploring the power of art as a tool for social change. Laura's guest, Ai Weiwei, world-renowned conceptual artist, filmmaker, and human rights activist, knows firsthand the power of freedom of expression and the fear it can invoke in the powers that be. He recently authored his first graphic novel, ZODIAC, a graphic memoir, with Elettra Strambolis and illustrator Gianluca Constantini, published by 10 Speed Graphic Press. Next, Ai Weiwei shares a passage from ZODIAC about his father's persecution by the Chinese government that led to his family growing up in exile, and how his story informs his art to this day. You can watch this episode on our YouTube channel and see images of his impactful work, including I versus AI, his graphic novel ZODIAC, and more. All the information is at our website, lauraflanders.org. While you're there, please take a moment to subscribe to our newsletter to receive information on all our web exclusives, including the full uncut version of today's conversation we offer free to our podcast subscribers. The conversation continues, but first here's the LTJ Experience remix of Working on It by Bread and Souls, featuring Rich Medina and produced by Mark DeClive Lowe, courtesy of Mashy Beats Records.
Owning a calculator does not guarantee that things will always add up for you and yours at sundown. Numbers do what they do, finite and infinite, all at once. Intoxicated metaphors and mathematics mixed with daily operations and rap that's going to earth often turns 2 + 2 to 5. But we keep on keeping on, right? One foot in front of the other and all that jazz, steady as she goes. Everybody out here working on it for self, seeking out the zero sum. And somewhere deep down in the bottom of a cocktail glass, escapism holds the mood board for the next 24 hours. And me, marching forward in denial, like I got it all together.
I hear your father, in a sense. I think of him, and you want to tell our audience a little bit about him. If he looked at you today and heard you talking about freedom, what do you think he would say? I mean, he experienced government suppression very clearly. You're talking about something a little more subtle, perhaps. But what would he be surprised by the situation we find ourselves in today?
I think my father lived his life under very strong political censorship, and he paid his lifetime for that. He was exiled, he was in jail, not for 1 year, but over 20 years. And I grew up with him. I don't think he will be surprised for me to fight to defend the freedom of speech. And I think he would be proud if he knows I'm doing that. But of course, he will be worried because he knows this kind of condition, in most cases, you cannot win.
We started by talking about those images from Gaza. How do you decide to work on subjects of migration or incarceration, or as you did, the naming of the children killed in the earthquake in Sichuan?
I made my comment, or it's kind of commentary, only because those topics I cannot avoid to escape from. Very often people would ask me, what's your opinion? So I have to honest to give out my opinion. I cannot say I don't have any opinion about it. But I'm not this kind of very active activist. I'm just being forced to act. But I'm proud of doing that because that is the meaning of life, to give dignity to life itself rather than anything else.
But you were pushed to focus on migrants, to focus?
Yes. I was migrants, even in my country. My father was exiled, so we always been discriminated. We never had a place we can call home. So I always wondering why those people have to leave their home. It doesn't make any sense. Even if it's poor, they will not leave their home willingly, just take their children, do all those risks across the ocean, and go to a land with no language, no religious similarity. And how can they survive? It's not possible. So I always wondering how that would happen. So that kind of curiosity leading me to want to know more about them and about how the other people look at them. What is the political policies or positions people handling those people?
When you made your film Flow,
Human
yes. Flow, the migration, the numbers of migrants and people displaced, I looked it up, was like half of what it is today. And you make the point that the number of borders was much more than it had been at the end of the Cold War, so-called, the bringing down of the Berlin Wall. Today, the question of home and homeland is up again. And I wonder, looking to Palestine, looking to Israel, looking all around the world as we see people moving, and fighting for a place to call home. What is home to you?
Too late to find a home for me. I have been in China for a very long time, over 40 years. I couldn't call it home. I speak Chinese language. My father is the most respectful poet today, and I cannot call it home because we just do not have same kind of ideology and values we can share, and I cannot speak freely in a place that you don't call it home. And yes, I've been in the United States for 12 years. Then I've been in Europe almost 10 years now. I still feel quite foreign in outside China. So I would not think there will be a location I call home, but which is fine. They give me opportunity to know more difficult situations, and to know there's a lot of people. They're just not privileged. And the whole world are facing a dramatic change, and this situation getting more common.
Well, so maybe this is a positive, not to diminish people's right not to be displaced and forcibly moved, but we spoke to Angela Davis not so long ago, and I asked her about nations and nation states and whether this idea that we have of a nation state is maybe out of date, and we need to reinvent. And I think I'd ask you that same question. How do you relate to the idea of a state? You've been subject to the power of one. You saw your father be persecuted by one as well. Maybe we need something else. Maybe we just need to call the planet home. Or our friends, or family, or something, our art.
Well, I think sooner or later we have to call this. We have to recognize the planet is the only home, because our fate are really bound together. With this dramatic change, either environmental changes, resource limit, and also war can be dramatically happening. So there will be rethinking about humanity as one, and to rethinking about we are all share the same planet. And of course, the home, so-called borders, a nation often divided by the different historical impact, religion or race or different kind of development, different speed. But gradually, those problems shows we have to have the unity. At least conceptually, we have to think humanity as one.
I think the birds where you are like what you just said, because they started singing more loudly. And I made me think of how often nature comes up in your work. What do you get from the animals that surround you, the relationship that you have to nature, and do you think of yourself? You're known for using a lot of technology as well. How do you think of your relationship with nature in these times, and how does it express itself in your art?
I think I will feel ashamed if I talk about nature. We have so little time just to look at what is around us, just grass or wood or birds or cats or dogs, whatever. There is so rich, and we have so little time. We have no patience, and we quickly rush our life away before we know all those neighbors and all those fantastic creatures. We know so little about them. As human, we are too arrogant. We think we control the universe, which is not true. It's just we only have been here for a very short time, as long as we don't ruin it, and we already very fortunate.
Do you have advice today to creative artists and others who've been facing censorship over their work around Gaza, around the tragedy affecting Palestinians today?
Things are so simple. Do we want to see our children, our families, or even friends to facing such a difficulty and not to say, hey, stop it. No war in Israel or Palestine situation, no war in Russian or Ukrainian situation or any place. Do not produce those arms. Do not sell the arms from the United States. Do not pay the arms from the United States. U.S. cannot supporting war anymore.
You paid a little price, at least, for just a tweet. There are others who faced much more.
What I did is nothing compared to, people I know in Gaza. They lost 20 members of their family. They're just journalists. And there could be a doctor and could be someone. And they have to argue about, hey, this is genocide. They have to argue. They don't want to spell out these words even. And they will say, okay, this is too much. Well, if we don't say that, can we look at the mirror? Can we look at ourselves? Who am I? And, can be totally wrong. We are still existing in this world, not speak out the truth.
To many people, not thinking about it and not knowing perhaps is more attractive than the questions that we need to be asking if we're to move forward. What fear do you have if we don't ask those questions, the right questions in the right way or often enough of us?
The real fear for me is we lost the ability to ask a question. We lost our memory. We lost our sense of caring, compassion, or, we lost this sensitivity. We already become inhuman.
Do you think we're on the verge of that?
I think very much so. Always there's a big part of the world, they just cannot make right judgment. Then that will lead our whole humanity into disaster after disaster.
Well, we have to close. I've loved talking with you. And I will ask you the question I ask all of my guests, which is, what do you think the story will be that the future tells of this moment, of now?
I think my future is now. You are my future.
I love it. Ai Weiwei, pleasure to talk with you. Thank you for spending this time with us.
I am so fortunate to get to know you.
Oh, well,
thank you.
It's mutual. Thank you. I enjoyed my conversation with Ai Weiwei, as you can probably tell, and there is much more of it. In the uncut version, we talk a bit about his cats. He had 40 of them when he lived in China, and one learned how to open doors for itself. Ai Weiwei is very impressed with the genius of that cat, as well he should be, but I'm particularly interested in those other 39. Were they happy enough to sit back and let that one do their door opening for them, or were they simply never struck by the question of their confinement? As I think about questions, I'm struck by the actions of so many Jewish Americans this Passover who took their Seder ritual, which is all about asking questions, out of private space into public space, where they raised real questions about liberation and freedom and justice for all, and the place that each one of us has in that project. If you want to get your own access to the uncut version of today's show or every show, then you can through a subscription to our free podcast, or the information's at our website. And in the meantime, till the next time, stay kind, stay curious. For Laura Flanders and friends, I'm Laura. Thanks for joining us.
For more information on this week's show, check out our show notes posted at patreon.com/Laura Flanders and Friends. It includes an invite to watch the premiere of each week's show on our YouTube channel and chat live in real time with Laura Sundays at 11:30 a.m. Eastern Time. Thanks to our member supporters, this show remains free to millions on public TV, community radio, and as a podcast. On behalf of Laura and the crew, we'd like to thank our members who participated in our recent watch party and discussion for the Season 5 premiere episode featuring Angela Davis. Monthly member supporters will get early access to that full uncut interview in the coming weeks and prior to the podcast release. Not a member yet? There's still time to get that early access. Become a member at patreon.com/Laura Flanders and Friends. That's patreon.com/Laura Flanders and Friends. Thanks for listening.
This show's produced by yours truly, Laura Flanders, with Sabrina Artel, Nat Needham, David Neumann, Jeanette Hernandez, Sarah Miller, Rory O'Connor, Jeannie Hopper, and Nady Pina. Major funding for this program is provided by the Novo, Park, Ellen Poss Family, Hisuku Wilson Foundations, the Schumann Media Center, Rising Fund at Tides, Kim Connor and Nick Groombridge, Jane Fonda, and listeners like you. Thanks for listening. Thanks for contributing. Thanks for your ideas. Stay kind. Stay curious. Until the next time, I'm Laura.